Everybody is unique in their own way, so it's no surprise that climbers climb with their own style. In this series, I'm going to explore what makes some climbers climb the way they do. By exploring these unique climbing styles and talking to some people along the way, my goal is to show you the diverse range of climbing styles around the world. My name's Albert Oak, and this is Climbing Styles.
Come on, Jimmy.
That is the sound of one of the best climbers in the world doing one of the hardest boulders in the world. That climber, Jimmy Webb, might be one of the most famous climbers from a region in America that has an extremely distinct climbing style unlike any other. That area is colloquially known as the region with Southern Grit. Located in southeastern United States, these climbers have been molded by the outdoor boulders around them to create such a distinct style that really does show the spirit of Southern Grit. Climbers from the south are strong, like really strong. Their backs all have a distinct V-taper and they are all very, very good at cutting feet. And when they do so, their legs look weightless. Even Kai Leitner, who's one of the tallest professional climbers being from the south, looks absolutely weightless when he cuts his feet on the wall. The two times I've seen Jimmy Webb climb, once at Seco Block and again recently at Rifle, I noticed that when he climbs, he really pulls with his back and covers an immense amount of distance. In my video about Japan's climbing styles, Robert talked about how Japanese climbers are good at being scrunched up and American climbers are very good at spread out climbing.
Yeah, essentially. I can stretch out my body as long as possible and keep body tension. But a lot of Japanese climbers actually can't do that very well. That's actually they're a lot better at higher feet positions and keeping their body tension that way than they are leaving really low feet and keeping body tension with their body spread out. It's really interesting.
If there was an antithesis of Japanese climbers, it would be Southern climbers. They are absolutely excellent at staying stretched out. Give them an overhang and they'll keep their feet as low as possible. And when they have to cut feet, they will do so effortlessly. Let's take a look at two examples of Southern climbers. The first is a male climber, Zach Gala. This is a problem he made up for himself, and look at every move. All the difficult moves have him fully maxed out, and when he has to cut feet, it seriously looks like he's floating. And if we watch Xander Waller, a youth climber, doing the same problem, we see virtually the same movement with adjustments to height as Xander is a bit taller. But it's not just the males who exhibit these traits. Let's take a look at Audrey Miller. You can see how she is extremely good at staying in the stretched out positions, and when she does cut feet, it's a very smooth and seamless transition to place her foot back onto the wall. Core tension is the name of the game here. In order to get a better understanding on what makes these Southern climbers so incredibly strong, I talked to one of my friends who lives in the South, Daniel Gajda. A great friend of mine who's also one of the most talented photographers in the IFSC circuit, USA climbing circuit, international world. This man is in magazines, posters, doing the best photos you've seen. Every photo you've liked on Instagram is probably one of his photos. Daniel, feel free to introduce yourself further than I've introduced you, but that's pretty much it.
What's up, y'all? I'm Daniel. I am, as he said, a photographer. I've been shooting the comp circuit for the last 2 years. I'm from the South. I live in Boone in North Carolina. Boulder a lot here.
Now, I'm going to stop real quick right here to hype up Daniel's photography. Every photo this guy takes is absolutely amazing. Okay, now I got that out of the way. So maybe you give an insight of what really garners that kind of culture as to why they're all so strong there.
Well, if any of you have climbed in the South is pretty known for being sandbagged, pretty hard. I know pretty much everywhere I've been in the South, if you compare it to out West, it's like mega different. And I think the grades kind of show it's a little sandbagged out here. But I think one of the biggest things that contributes to like the strength in Southern climbers is just the style out here. Like in Boone, it's like the biggest style is just power crimping. It's just like huge, big moves between edges, and like it's just all strength. It's just like all contact strength, all core strength. There's not many boulders here that are just like jugs in a roof. There's not many boulders here that are just like big compy, like dyno-y style climbs. Everything's like pretty overhung. Everything's pretty bad holds. Everything's pretty core intensive. So I think like, at least from Boone, that's what I see is like Boone is super, super, super heinously strong climbing.
So let's talk about sandbagging. This is a term thrown around, especially when talking about climbing grades. The area he is referring to, Boone in North Carolina, as well as unanimously in the South, is known for sandbagging their grades, which means this. Let's say you're climbing a V4 or 6B in the South. That same climb, if it was graded by someone from out West, would probably get a V5, 6C, or even V6, 7A rating. Basically, it means that the climbs there are very, very difficult for the grades they are given. Now, sandbagging isn't necessarily a good or bad thing, but what it does do is make climbers who are dedicated very, very strong.
Yeah, so I climb at Center 45, which is the only commercial gym in Boone other than the gym on the college campus, but Center 45 is like definitely reflects the style of climbing here. It's like super sandbagged. Once you get above, like you get up to like V8 and everything is like a grade or two harder than the tag says. So there will be V10. They only tag up to V10. So there'll be V10 in the gym every once in a while. That's like, oh, that's like 8B, like V13, like it's fine.
And people do that.
Like that's just expected. Yeah. It's just expected. The setting here is we get a comp style boulder once every like month maybe. So like it's super outdoorsy, super thuggy, super like just strong thug climbing in most of the gyms that I've been to in the South.
As Daniel said, the gyms often reflect the outdoor climbing style in their setting. Anyone who has exclusively climbed indoors and tried to climb outdoors probably struggled on their first trip outdoors because, let's face it, outdoor climbing and indoor climbing is very different. The gyms mimicking the outdoor style will automatically make the gyms feel sandbagged and more difficult than the typical gym.
Compared to people like Zach Gala and Jimmy Webb, who just like 100% climb in their core. Like whenever I see Zach Gala climb in a comp or outdoors, it's like his feet are pasted to the wall and he is like all in his back, like all in his core, just like into the wall, in his feet. And I think that definitely reflects the Southern climbing style.
And all of them have an insane V taper in their back. And I mean, your back, since you started climbing, has gotten like wider, haven't you noticed?
Yeah,
I've noticed it. And is it just because you guys climb overhang all day?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, our gym, Center 45, only has our flat wall is like 5 to 10 degrees overhanging. So we have a roof, we have a 60 degree, we have a flat wall, and we have a 45, and we have a moon board. So we just climb the overhang. Like that's all we do here.
This type of core tension is something that is talked about all the time, but is something very difficult to execute. I wouldn't be surprised if all of the top climbers coming from the South are able to front lever. And to do these amazing feats of strength, I asked Daniel about what their training looks like on an average basis, and a little bit more into what really defines the grit culture of Southern climbing.
I mean, from what I've seen in their training, it's just like a lot of them are super into like training, like hangboard training and weight training and all of that. But the main thing that I see is when they session, there's a lot of spray wall climbing. Like Ben climbs on a spray wall so much. Mm-hmm. And he'll have projects set on a spray wall for like years, which is just crazy. It's like crazy to think that you have a spray wall, that you have like a project that hasn't gone in 2 years or something. Like that's wild to me.
There are a few names for spray walls: chaos walls, circuit walls, and I'm sure there are other names, but basically it's a wall with holds turned in various directions with no designated route to climb. No tape or color coordination, and it's up to the climbers to make their own problems. On Dan Burkhalter's Instagram, I've seen firsthand his spray wall projects, and they look ridiculously hard.
But it also like, it trains you to try really, really hard if you're projecting, which I think is like super important, because I feel like a lot of people who climb in the gym, including me, were bad at projecting until they like started climbing outside, like in an area where they can actually go project. Like I was terrible at projecting when I moved to Boone because I hadn't had the accessibility to be able to go climb super close to wherever I was living. And then I moved here and I have boulders that are like 30 minutes from my house that I can go to like before classes, after classes, in between classes. And it like really shows like projecting is not as easy as it seems.
And I think that sort of actually perfectly describes the whole grit of it, because projecting is just a grit thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, can you physically do it? Yes, but can you mentally just bang your head until it happens?
Yeah, it's a grind. Projecting is a grind for sure.
If you search up Stone Fort or Horsepens 40 and find video footage, you'll notice a strong trend that Daniel mentions is reflected in the setting. Everything is overhung with small holds and big moves. There is an annual outdoor bouldering competition called the Triple Crown that is held across 3 different dates and 3 different locations. It pushes the athletes into climbing as hard as possible to do as best as possible in the competitions. Daniel sheds some light about one of the stops of the Triple Crown, Hound Ears.
I've been to the one in Boone, Hound Ears. I went and shot photos a few years ago.
What was the atmosphere like? Was people just going hard the whole time? Or?
Oh yeah, it's people just like rage until they can't climb anymore. I mean, the one in Boone is at a area called Hound Ears, and it's only open during the comp. Okay. Unless you like live on that section of private, it's like a privately gated community. And so they open it once a year for that comp. So people who either live in Boone or live like around Boone and know about that rock, they want to come up and just like absolutely rage and try as hard as they can and climb as much on that rock as they can in that single day that it's open every year.
Dang.
So the atmosphere is sick. Everyone is psyched. Everyone is trying really hard. It's rad.
When I say grit, I mean it in the most positive way. The climbers there are always willing to grit through hot conditions, steep overhangs, hard projecting, and strenuous training. They're the climbers that have projects on spray walls for years. It's very much a work hard until it happens culture. Stylistically, they are so unique in just the way that they move. They can stretch out for miles, but they can cut feet effortlessly. It also seems as if any one of those climbers could take on Atlas's burden and hold the sky, for their backs are so strong.
Maybe you explain in your own words what it means, what the word grit means to you and the community around you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I came to Boone and was terrible at the climbing style here. And I knew that if I wanted to climb here, I had to get good at that style. It's like I can't climb slab in Boone. I can't climb vert in Boone. There's only a couple of those. And all the boulders that you see and you're like, that's the sickest boulder I've seen in a long time, is like, that's a super mega roof or like super heinous compression boulder or something super power crimpy out an overhang. So like moving to Boone taught me that I needed to like branch out of the single style that I was already really good at and then get good at the other style and like really just like beat my head against the wall until I was good at it. I mean, it took me 3 years, maybe like 2.5 or 3 years of being in Boone to really like feel like I have the style of Boone in me now. Like before I came to Boone, I was like, I would lock every single move off. I was not thuggy at all. I was like super slabby vert climber. I climbed at the New River Gorge a bunch. So that taught me to just like static through everything and just like lock off and hand foot match and lock off. And that's just not an option when you're climbing out of a 60 degree in a 60 degree boulder. That's just, it doesn't work like that. So like Boone definitely taught me that's just like, if you want to climb style here, you gotta adapt and train for it.
I think if there's anything I've learned from listening to Daniel or studying about the Southern grit culture, I've realized that it's very important to have at least some grit in our lives. Grit is what allows us to get through difficult challenges, whether it be in climbing or in other facets of life. By forcing ourselves to adapt and change to the style of our challenges, it allows us to grow and become bigger people in the end. So whether you're climbing V0 or you're Jimmy Webb absolutely destroying a V16, I think it's worth it to have a little bit of grit.
Ah! Yeah. Yes!
Nicely done, man.
No way, dude.
All right, so we'll wrap this part up. Would you like to plug what you've got going on, what projects are happening next?
I'll plug my gym, Center 45. They're the best. I'm there like 5 days a week. I train so hard there. They foster like the best community ever. They're incredible. Kinetic climbing, keeping me safe with my pads, keeping me chalked up. I'm psyched. I'm psyched for a new season. I'm psyched for the temps to start rolling in.
I'll plug all of your Instagram and your website and everything down below. Everyone go follow Daniel. If you're not, you're missing out. You probably already follow him, to be honest. All right. Thanks so much.
Hopefully you are.